a moment. Okay, so just a few seconds. Okay, so hello everybody and good evening. Welcome to the book club. So this is the Business and Leadership Book Club. We started in 2019. I think we are how old now? So that's going to about 2 years. So, and who are we? We're a group of professionals from different works of discipline. And we're people who love to read, but we know how life happens and things get busy, either with our work, with our career, or with family.
Ife, sorry, ma'am.
Can you please?
Yes, can you please let people in? They're waiting for you to let them in to the meeting.
People are interestingly. Okay, so that will be happening. So let's. I want to set up Sanjot so that I can kick off the conversation, and I can, take care of all the settings and make sure we have more co-hosts on the book review today. All right, like I was saying, my name is Ifeoluwa Esther Obafemi, and I'm your host. And I have a number of co-hosts in the house. An example is Emanuela, who just spoke now, and Olaoluwu, who also is, has been also helping with administration, and a number of people too. I'm trying to see where Harriet is today, and also architect. What's his surname again? It just skipped me. But then, so how have we operated? So we've been on WhatsApp, but when COVID happened this year, we now started exploring the virtual option, and we've been making it an open house review to ensure that we have maybe more people. If you also love reading, you can come in, see how we do things. If you want to be part of the group, then we can add you to the WhatsApp group. So that's how we have operated. And most of us, we share the book like 3 weeks or 1 month ahead, sometimes even 2 weeks. And then we assign a facilitator who will take us through his or her learning on the book, and we all contribute and give relatable, real life examples of how the book or part of our learning, now we can apply the book to real life situation, and the learnings will be taken out of the meeting. For today's session, Oluwasegun Adeleye will be moderating. So by moderating would mean that he will be working together with the facilitator to coordinate the session today. So be handling questions. He will also have maybe prepared questions based on also his own reading, and I'm sure we're going to have a great session. So let's not do much of the introduction and delve into the book which we are reviewing today, Willful, Blindness. That book is something else. But I would not let the cat out of the bag yet. For some of us who have read it, it's been mind-blowing. It's such a depth. And I think all leaders and individuals should read the book. It's a worthwhile investment in oneself. So now let me hand over to Oluwasegun Adeleye. How do you want this to run? I know you are a software engineer. I'm wondering how well to introduce you and do the proper justice. So let me allow you to introduce yourself. Oluwasegun Adeleye. Please introduce yourself and then introduce our facilitator for today. So, see you later, everybody. So let's get into the book.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I hope you can all hear me clearly.
On my side, I can hear you.
All right, that's fine. So thank you very much. My name is, like she said, my name is Oluwasegun Adeleye. I'm a software engineer, and I currently work at Corape as a CTO. Corape is payments. So I mean, it's very important to be the moderator for today, and I really appreciate it so much. This is more or less taking me out of my comfort zone, but I think it's going to be a great experience and an amazing ride. So today we'll be reviewing the book, a very interesting book, I must say, titled Willful, Blindness. Why We Ignore the Obvious at Our Peril, written by Margaret Heffernan. I hope I pronounced it correctly. So I find this book very interesting because personally, I think it exposes a lot of flaws, in our making as humans, and it's amazing how we write on these flaws, and these are the things that actually we find identity in this without knowing about them. And I think it's very interesting. It's a very amazing book, and I think it's a book that's you should read more than once, sincerely. But not to say so much, I think I'll allow our facilitator for the day to do justice to that. So before I hand over to Mr. Mr. Adesanjo, I'd like to introduce our lead facilitator for the day. Unfortunately, I can't share my screen, so I'll just read from here. So Mr. Adesanjo Oyejide is a registered dietitian, nutritionist trained at the University of Ibadan. He has worked in clinical setting as a dietitian, in development organization as a program officer, and currently in a multinational FMCG as an up-and-coming medical marketing manager and child nutrition expert. Adesanjo is happily married to Adeseun and blessed with a daughter, Adetoke. So I'm going to hand over to you now, Mr. Adesanjo. You have the floor. Thank you very much. Hello? Oh, okay. Hello?
We can't hear you.
Oh, you didn't hear me?
No,
Okay,
no. I could hear you. I meant Sanjo.
Yeah, you're mute.
I don't think he's speaking already.
I don't think he's. Hello? Mr.
Hello,
Sanjo.
I'm on the call. The network was a bit unstable.
Oh, okay. I had introduced you and handed over to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Very charismatic moderator. Thank you everyone for having me tonight. Good evening. Yes, I'm leading the discussion, but it's a discussion for all. As we have been urged time without number, we are going to rub minds, and at the end of the discussion, I am sure I will have gained from you as much as you might have also picked one or two things from me. And I think that's the essence of the program altogether to sharpen our minds and exchange views so that we will not even be willfully blind and be lost in our own thoughts without consideration of other possibilities, other key learnings that one could get in every circumstance or life event. I've sent the slides to you, Ma. Can you confirm the receipt? Can you unmute, Ma? I didn't hear you.
Not yet.
Oh, I've sent to your Gmail.
Okay, let's.
Okay.
While I'm at that, maybe you can just go on with. If you've done the introduction, maybe you want to the preamble.
Yes, so
let me just speak to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we continue. Yes, willful blindness. Why we ignore the obvious at our peril by Margaret Heffernan. This book, as rightly entered by the moderator, it's one book that I would say reading it, in fact, from the preamble of the book, I concluded that I've been willfully blind for a while myself. And the book is one that is a wake-up call on how some things that are actually perhaps small in size but important in consequences are often overlooked, if not outrightly neglected in our day-to-day activities. So this book and the emphasis on those salient concepts that could make one willfully blind are brought to the fore. And I would say that Margaret Heffernan has done a very good work bringing our thoughts together on this. So as a form of introduction still, I would like to say that Margaret Heffernan is she's an experienced businesswoman. She is a leader herself in her, as she has held several organizations, and currently she even sits on the board of about 3 organizations. She has a very, I'm not surprised that she preaches or advocates for diversity of opinions, of ideas, of even thoughts. I'm not surprised because looking at her background, this is a woman that was born in Texas, raised in Holland, and educated at Cambridge University. So she has had the privilege of a diverse atmosphere and upbringing, if I could say, and that must also have influenced some of our thoughts and convictions, as well as experience on the concept of willful blindness. This book is just one of our few other books. She has some other books. She has published about 5 books so far, among which we have The Naked Truth, A Working Woman's Manifestos on Business, and What Really Matters. The last of our book is the one titled Beyond Measure. So she teaches at several business schools too, principally in the US and UK. She's a regular contributor at some magazines and the likes. So her specialties include writing, as we could see. She has written this book among others. Speaking, board management, career management, as well as internet management. So that's Margaret Heffernan in brief. It's important we know the author so that as we begin to look into our work, we have an idea of whose work we are even looking to examining. So I would then move to, like I said earlier too, this is going to be a very interactive discussion. So, but before I just, so I can be interrupted, don't forget, you can ask me to pause while you have the floor on certain concepts as we progress. So please do feel free to do so. So from this book, what do we mean by willful blindness? What do we mean by willful? Hey, this NEPA, they have done it again. What do we mean by willful blindness? According to, okay. Oh, I didn't know you are even doing you are showing it already. So concept of willful blindness is actually a denial of reality. One may want to ask, why would anyone want to deny the reality? Why would anyone, for whatever reason, want to deny a reality? But this is something that we do. Every one of us does this. The magnitude or the manner with which we deny a reality may vary from a person to person or from circumstances to circumstances. But why do we do so? We do so to have, sometimes to have, in quotes, peace. We do so sometimes to feel comfortable. We do so some other time for just to feel good about ourselves or a decision we have made or a situation, so that we probably don't worry. Again, it is also to deliberately close one's eyes to what would otherwise have been obvious to one. No, it is not, it is, there are concepts, there are situations in life that we could see, that the tendency to see is there. But because of our willful blindness, what we have just deliberately chose not to see. There are a number of other terms that imply willful blindness, especially in the lens of legal practice. We have connivance, deliberate indifference, deliberate ignorance, constructive knowledge, conscious avoidance. For me, I would say all of them at different points in time all connote willful blindness. When we just want to be ignorant of a situation that we ordinarily should be abreast of, that we should be conscious of, and we deliberately, or so to speak, choose to see perhaps the more beautiful side of the story, and that is willful blindness. Can we move to the next slide, please? Okay, so this book actually was written in about 12 chapters, all of them bringing out the different dimensions and areas of possible willful blindness on our path, using different instances and endeavors. So, as a matter of fact, according to Margaret Heffernan, which she proves with a number of instances, and which we also, if we look inward, we could also possibly agree with her, is the fact that the origin of willful blindness is our innate desire for familiarity. We are just comfortable for a familiar situation, a familiar person, a familiar terrain. And I want to ask, how do we make our choices in terms of our relationship? Who chooses to marry a person is entirely different from? As a matter of fact, we look out for what they say, compatibility. So even emphasize the fact that most of our decisions on those kind of situations are based on familiarity. We are looking at how compatible am I with Miss XYZ. Even job, how compatible are the demand of this job to my lifestyle? Because I don't want to do a job perhaps that will be entirely different or opposite to the life lifestyle I live or to situations around me. So in the book, there are situations of people that donate only to organizations that probably have a semblance of something that is dear or important to them. Something as simple as similar alphabets that ordinarily one would think has no any importance. For instance, somebody's foundation is Hope Alive, for instance, Hope Alive Foundation, and you see everybody that bears the name Hope being driven to contribute to the cause of the organization, not necessarily because of the noble cause that they pursue or because of other, but just because there is hope in their name and it bears, she bears hope, or a daughter or a dear person bears that. Let me ask us, how do we react to when we hear that somebody is our birthday mate? So you're just, all of it, you're just in the midst of people at a meeting and somebody just said, oh, I am November, it's just November born alone, not just we are both born November 22nd as it may be, just November born. So we form, oh, we November born, then we start forming and having idea that characterize people that are November born, as we could see even in some games and websites that would say November born are this, October born are this, October born are, emphasizing our familiarity, our affinity, our inclination to meeting, to familiarity or familiar situations. So I want to ask us, let me throw it open here. Do we agree that we make our decisions by mostly on the basis of familiarity, relationships, recruitment, charity, and the likes? Do we believe, as written by Heffernan and Margaret, that the origin of willful blindness is indeed a desire for familiarity? How much do we desire for familiarity? Are there chat already? Okay.
Someone says a lot.
Is anybody saying anything?
Someone just posted on the chat and says a lot. That's Chi E.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a question to everyone. You can answer if you want to.
Okay.
Is anyone who would like
Does
to answer
anyone
the
want to
question?
speak? Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Go
Yeah.
on, Shego. Yeah.
I think someone wanted to say something.
Okay. Would somebody just tell us how they meet the man or the woman behind our beautiful smiles? And what role does compatibility, familiarity play in all of the equation?
Or even who
When
we
we
choose as
deliberately
friends.
looking for somebody, Mark, you said?
Now saying who we even befriend.
Yeah.
Or who we even
people
befriend?
We're going to call names now.
Hello.
Okay. Hi, Fisayo.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. I totally agree with what the facilitator has said. So we make we make our decisions on the relationship we want to have, the people we are friends with, based on compatibility. So I was having a conversation with a few friends yesterday, and it was about, oh, okay, what do you want in a man, or what do you want in someone you want to date? And the conversation was majorly centered around, oh, I want this person to be this way because I know that I'm a certain way. So let's say I know I'm someone that likes to work. So I want the person I'm going to be with to be hardworking, to be this. So a lot of the conversation was, okay, I want this kind of thing in a man, but it's because I am a certain way. So it just made me realize that a lot of we are blind to the options that are out there, or the variety that is out there, because of we have modeled everything we want to fit into our own desires and the way we think. So it's something that is unconscious, but as much as we try to fight it, it's there, and we do that a lot. So that's just it for me.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Does anybody is anybody itching to say one thing or the other again? Okay, so indeed, it is actually a reality. While I was, let me admit that more than about 8 examples or scenarios narrated in this book are things that I have done, as in things that I personally, and I was thinking within me again, could Mrs. Obafemi have had an idea of this aspects of me to to probably nominate that I am the person to facilitate this discussion?
Not an idea at all. Yes, yes. I said not an idea at all.
Okay. So, because sincerely, it's more or less like a required intervention. I still would have learned a lot listening to another person facilitating the discussion, but perhaps I probably wouldn't have digested the book and taken as much learning as I did reading through the book. So when we do most of the things we do, we crave for compliance. We crave for how similar, how we want something that will not stretch us out of our comfort zone, be it marriage, be it job, be it opinions, even during meetings. This is our conviction about certain things. For instance, somebody has believed that for you to enjoy your marriage, you should marry someone exactly from your tribe. Some will even go further to say from your state of origin. And you could even hear some other funny criteria that are set in a bid to ensure that there is no any surprises as to cultural shock and some other possibility of fear that people would have in making decisions. And what about even job? When we have 3 different jobs offering us the same benefit or reward or salary as the case may be, what do we use when the salaries are equal? Among the things that many of us chose, and which are also illustrated, are the fact that we will possibly or most likely choose the one that most suits our lifestyle, that most suits our personality, that conform with the life we live, not the one that stretches out of our comfort zone, through which we probably would see life in a different or another dimension. Now, the one question one might want to ask is, why do we why should we even take the concept of willful blindness serious? We should, because for every decision we make, right or wrong, there are consequences. And the consequences of our decision, the fact that we are willfully blind, does not absolve us of those consequences. There was a situation that was narrated about a Michael in the book that has a congenital heart disease, and a journalist by practice. And this gentleman is in a relationship, a 9-year relationship with a lady. And at a time, the lady in question just felt, oh, this decision I'm about making would not but have its own consequence or consequences. Then the lady, they went for a tea, and the lady opened up to the young man and say she was very sorry, she won't be able to continue with their relationship, and she cut it. Then the man moved on, and when he was a bit better, he moved on to his broadcasting job, met another lady, and that other lady, driven by the familiarity, this compatibility in question, the fact that they share background, they share profession, a lot of things in common. So she decided to look away the inherent health status of Michael. Then they got married, and I think within the first year or so of their marriage, the gentleman required a transplant, heart transplant. And before they could out the son, he passed on. And now the lady recanting said if she had looked beyond the things they shared in common and had taken her time to the pain of being a widow, and had taken her time to study or read books about the grief of people that lose their spouses in that early, and what the survival rate of a person with such a congenital heart disease look like, that she probably will have made a different decision. So the point to note here is the fact that, yes, we can be driven by compatibility. We may also want to consider why is it unethically allowed? Why is it not ethically allowed that a physician attend to his or her own relation, especially in certain critical conditions? There was a situation that was also narrated of a couple, both medical doctors. Then the mother of the man, the husband, called to narrate her feeling, the symptoms she was having, to the son, who happened to be the husband. And before the woman ended the call, the woman was like, she felt it could be ulcer. And just like that, the woman, the doctor just jumped at it and said, yes, it must be ulcer, it must be that. And the wife, he now narrated the same complaint of the mother to the wife. And the wife now, she loves her mother-in-law, no doubt, but we can't compare the kind of feelings she probably has with what the husband, who is a biological son this time around, has for his mother. So when the wife hears with a less feeling of attachment, if you want to call it that, or with devoid of willful blindness, as the case may be, the woman said, no, mama is having heart attack, not ulcer. That symptom she narrated, as much as you may want to, she's having pains in her arms, she's having the pains in her abdomen and the likes, and the symptoms she narrated is that of a heart attack and not, and just then, the narration was so, the description, the symptoms narrated by the woman was so obvious that a physician of many years of experience like the man will not miss it for us or anything other than what it is, which is actually heart attack or its symptoms. But because it is his mother this time around, and it's not ready to cope with the agony of his own beloved mother coming down with heart attack. But the question we should ask is, does denying the fact that the woman was not having ulcer but a heart attack, could that denier have healed the innocent mom from heart attack? Will it prevent the woman from complications that could arise if not immediately faced, confronted, and treatment commenced? This is something we can relate to in our other life endeavors. That we deny, for instance, that somebody is having diabetes. I've had also, as from my clinical experience, I've had situations where they are during outreaches. You check people's blood pressure, blood sugar, and you would say, "Oh, Mr. or Madam, your blood glucose level is quite high. We advise that you go to the nearest clinic, as you may possibly have diabetes." And you will see people do, "Oh, over my dead body. Nobody has it in my family. It is not something that is peculiar. No, in fact, where would I see it from? I reject it in Jesus' name." Some people will tell you, "I also be like, may we not see that?" But will that denial have any effect on the blood glucose level? It wouldn't. But the area the person takes into consideration the reality of the fact that once you have diabetes, you can live with it without even any problem, only observing the rules and taking necessary treatment. One can still live 70, 60 years after the diagnosis with even diabetes. So the essence of discussing this concept is so that we can begin to take notes of seemingly unimportant, apparently things that we see as being small, unimportant, and we deny just to feel comfortable, just to feel good, and that. Again, convictions. How are we with our convictions? It's a fact that even when we do not probably have it in one single expression, or when we cannot probably even write it if we are asked, everybody has an idea, or what we say, a philosophy about different concepts of life, about different aspects of life. For instance, when it comes to business, you will hear somebody say, "I can never do my business at the detriment of another person's welfare, regardless of profit." Another person will tell you, "As long as nobody is harmed, I can make as much profit on my business as possible. I am profit driven." Another person will tell you, "I'm service driven." When it comes to marriage, some people will tell you that nothing is more important than my family. It's a conviction. Nothing is more important than my family. Work would go, every other thing would go, my family would remain. Another person will tell you that no, money is the soul of even the family. A family without money will not remain the same again. Therefore, I'm going to prioritize whatever brings money and then prioritize family. It's a conviction. Another person will have another call. Everybody has a conviction. But how willing are we, in the face of superior argument, to drop our conviction and look at other possibilities to life, different from the way we see it or the way we view it? Let me cite an instance as narrated in the book under this chapter, which is about the development of the issue of pregnant women and X-ray. There was still on ideology and convictions. There was a situation where before now, through even the 50s and the 60s, through 70s, pregnant women were still being subjected to X-ray. And X-ray, beyond what we know it for in medical space, they also use it in some even use X-ray in those days to look for a tiny object like a microscope, do the work, using X-ray to do the work of a microscope. Like you're working in a bakery and in a big loaf that flour the likes, somebody's ring just got missing and you want to look for it, and they will subject the heap of the flour or whatever it is to X-ray just to discover whether or not the ring was somewhere inside it. So it has some other things they use it for. But in medical space, a scientist, Alice, I don't think I remember the last name, she, I think, come in please. Also, she's an epidemiologist. She wanted to find out what is the link between poverty and illness. And in the course of doing that, she was asking pertinent questions. But something was common to all the people she interviewed, people that have had, she was actually observing childhood cancer mortality. Why do children less than 10, why do we lose them to cancer disease? So of all the questions she was asking, one question that seems to cut across was the fact that the mothers were exposed to X-ray. And it was found out that children whose mothers had X-ray exposure were twice likely to have cancer than their counterparts whose mother do not have the experience. Then she began to research, and emerging studies and data were pointing to the fact that it is dangerous, it is hazardous to expose a pregnant woman to X-ray. However, people denied because she has made that research as far back as 58 through 60s. But you will discover that the practice was still ongoing even through 70 until around 1980 when it was eventually universally kind of accepted. Then the question was, why did people hold on for too long on something that there are indications that were not correct? To the point that some people were even releasing counter studies just because of their inherent conviction to the benefit of X-ray, to how they feel that it has an advantage of precision in some respects. So when we hold on to a conviction and we think it is the rule by which we live our life, it tells or impacts on how we see life and the decisions we make. The kind of persons we choose to relate with, it's also impacted. Not only that, if we move on to examine the book further, we'll see that willful blindness is also very much entrenched in the business world, in corporate organizations. However, the magnitude vary from organizations to organizations depending on the leadership as well as the culture of the organizations. And it is on this note, I'm going to ask us again, in our business life, in our corporate life, how well do we observe that we are inclined towards people that share the same idea with us, towards people that share perhaps our passion, people that agree with us, perhaps not, maybe not yes ma, or yes sir kind of agreement, but even when they speak, how comfortable are we with people that hold opposing views to those business decisions that we are making, that we have thought about a lot, only to come to meeting for one neophyte to say, ma, I do not feel that this is the best decision to make at this time, perhaps for X and Y reasons. How comfortable, how encouraging is this practice in corporate world? Many of all of us are professionals from different climes. I know the experience in FMCG might be different from ICT. That of ICT might be different from some other spheres of life. So, but I would like to ask, how much does our systems encourage such opposing views in corporate world? And what eventually becomes the fate of people that perhaps are stretching the powers that be in terms of opinions and positions that are considered a kind of, is deviated from our defined norm or normal?
Okay, hi, good evening. My name is Chai. I would say, Mr. Adesonjo, your depth and perspective on the book is quite deep, that there are a lot of things that you're talking about. I didn't even, think about them the way you've analyzed. So I want to thank you and well done. So, in my study of the book, it dawned on me that a lot of the people that I would have said I've interviewed were people, or I have selected to work with me, are people who either have the same kind of seriousness that I want or I have, or the same kind of attitude. So I will give a scenario. There's a interview that we conducted, and the guy has this free lifestyle. You could see it around him, as he doesn't send anybody. You ask him a question, he just like free behavior. And among the panelists during the interview, you could see us passing eye comments and like, what's going on, that kind of thing. But by the time I started reading this book, it made me to start thinking that, so was that a good criteria to ask this guy to go? Is there a missed opportunity that the business would have tapped from young man? Because we're not used to his kind of person. We're not familiar to him being that free, and we expect that you bring out value or you bring out results. Now, the person we chose eventually was a very serious person, giving you theories, answers, and everything. But I'm not sure that I would say he would have done this. He has done better compared to what the other person would have done. So the book just made me feel like you've just been doing everything wrong. There are opportunities that you missed. There are issues or difficulties that you might have escaped if only you had been open, if your mind had been open to see these things. I think I will stop there.
Thank you. Does one other person have any experience in the corporate world? Okay. While people are probably waiting for the moderator to declare the floor open for general comments, I want to thank the last speaker that shared that experience with us. And I'm sure that examples, that example, we have many of it. I'm going to give an instance too. Not long ago, in my place of work, we have this short time kind of project, and we needed some people. I wasn't part of the people recruiting, but whatever people they eventually choose will work with me, and I work with them. So, but eventually, I was trying to find out the person that turned out to be most serious. Somebody was now passing I was giving a feedback on that person. Oh, you know that this particular colleague is extremely wonderful. She's more than competent for the job she has taken. And the person was telling me that if I witnessed that person's interview, that I would probably even scold him for eventually choosing that kind of person. So the person was so unserious that you would just think the person has come from bush and is to be interviewed for cassava planting session or something. And you know, the description, but eventually what they did was they looked beyond what they ordinarily would have been comfortable with. And we're like, okay, these are the competencies that this job require. This person has attitude, well, let's say exposure. They saw deficit in the person's exposure. The person is probably coming up to do corporate job for the first time or interview. So the person was sits down on the table as if it's in our father's
restaurant.
And very, very, what you would say, uncultured, or so to speak, in the corporate world. And yet they were just like, okay, does this person, we need somebody that is resilient. Could she exhibit that? Does she, where did she come from? And they just say, okay, let's try her. And every other person, some even overdressed and over-prepared for the job they are coming to take, they practically cajoled the interviewers to be employed, only to get to fit to become the exact opposite of who they would not have, who they would have wanted. So that's in terms of recruitment. It also happens during board meetings and teamwork. A very beautiful idea. 7 persons in a team. The leader of the team has put the decision on the table and said, I feel this is what it should be. And from experience, people that have feel the way he feels are people that get the best of things. So everybody just started queuing behind what the boss has felt. Or everybody say, yes, I agree, I concur, I agree. Until somebody comes and say, please, this is a very dangerous time. I'm thinking that we shouldn't pursue this particular event or activity. I would rather suggest we do this and this. And everybody was like, the question is, why is your own different? That statement is common even in our settings. Why is your own different? Who says a person cannot be different and be reasonably so? So in philosophy, I think I could remember back then when we were doing general studies back in the universities, they would say there is something that is argumentum ad populum. Fallacy, appeal to population. When everybody is doing something, and just because everybody is doing it, you assume it to be the best, you assume it to be the right thing. Whereas one person that is just on his own, standing alone, is perhaps probably the only one standing right. So, well, because we now adjudge that person to be wrong, just because it's not standing where majority of every other person is standing, is a class of fallacy on its own. Because every other person could have been wrong. Every other person could have been wrong, while that person is the only one that is right. Also, if we want to look at the world of science and the early science, actually, did somebody not first say the world is rectangular? The whole world felt, yes, everybody just agreed. Yes, the world is rectangular. It has edges. Until a scientist, a geographer said, well, I do not believe, I can't believe that the life is, some people say it is circular. The guy said, no, it's not even circle. It is spherical. And when he said it, if we look at the history of that scientist, that geographer, he was persecuted by the powers that be then. He was persecuted for saying the word that everybody perceived to be rectangular or circular to be spherical. But what did it turn out to be? It turned out to be that he was the one that was correct after all. So those are issues around convictions in our place of work, how we think a concept is not important, whereas it is more important than we have thought, and the consequences of neglecting those things. I will give another example about willful blindness. And this one, I would say, it happens a lot when somebody, it happened to a friend of mine. He went to a place around Bodija, sometimes around 2012. I am not sure. He didn't tell me this until about 2015 or 2016, but there's a lesson to learn there. And when I was reading this book, I was seeing the example of the man in the book written in another language. Anyway, so this person had gone to Bodija market in Ibadan, an undergraduate student for that matter, and somebody approached him, a young man approached him with a bag in his back and told him that, gentleman, I am strange, I'm from Ekiti State. I came to Oyo State to sell one particular culturally important, like say you want to sell diamond, for instance. So this person mentioned an artifact, like he has come to sell, and he would like the guy to lead him to where he can possibly sell. Meanwhile, somebody told him he could get it sold at Bere in Ibadan. So this person was just before he could even think in his mind, like, has he ever heard of such thing being sold? Does he know where it is sold in Bere? Just before he could even give it a thought, the guy said, and whatever the amount I sell it, I'm going to give you 10,000 naira. So this person was just like, wow, it from Bodija to Bere will take him less than 20 minutes. So, and this person just jumped inside the bus. And he told me that while he was following, the only motivation that made him to follow the person was basically because the person has mentioned 10,000 naira for another garage student that probably did not have 1,000 naira in his pockets at that time. So he followed, and just there, the guy called another person and said, can you follow me? I want to take this person to the place. And the person made a call and said, hello, are you, please wait for me in the shop. I want to quickly take a friend somewhere. And they left. He followed them. Eventually, he told me that he was the one that was paying for even their transport fare till they reached where they were going, only for this guy to be taken to, I would say, ritualist, money ritualist, where it was going to eventually be used for money ritual. So he said he got there, they had a handshake with the herbalist, and just at that time, something popped up in his head, and he started asking the question he did not ask before he left Bodija. And what were the questions he was? Were the questions he was asking? He was asking, number one, do I know this person enough to want to follow him? I came to Bodija to do something entirely different. Two, I did not ask to even see the so-called artifact that I was carrying inside his bag. Then, I did not know any Baba or anywhere in Bere where they are selling this thing. It was even the person that wished to be led that told him to, he started asking questions. And just this, he told me that these things, this encounter lasted, these questions he was asking and providing answers for, spanned just few seconds. And I told him actually, and he also acknowledged the fact that it was God that saved him. Anyway, At that point, he started to run away. And they started doing all those incantations for him to stop until he disappeared. He got to the street, did not even know how to trace his step back to neither Bodija nor UI. People were the one directing him. Now, that is that case. He was blindfolded by the mention of benefits. Just like somebody might be blindfolded to take a wrong career by of salary. And will be sure the mention of it alone make us to stop asking other questions. I want to get married and I attend ABC church. And because I've seen a presentable suitor, and most importantly now, from ABC church too, I shot other questions. Questions that would eventually even scatter the union and even make us to fight, and even the roots of that relationship, which is the faith, this time around, will even be debased just because we do not pay critical attention. So willful blindness is real, and it's something that happens in every organization and our day-to-day life. Now, can you please go to the slide, Ma? So when we say love is blind and that it requires illusion, we not say that love is not only based on illusion. It requires illusion for love to endure. You see, what makes people united in marriage, experience and books like this are revealing that it is not just because people understand each other, but because they have chosen to idealize one another, and not just that they accurately understand each other. And to that extent, we don't seem to love people for whom they really are, but who we think they are or who we want them to be. And that makes a lot of sense to me, if you ask, because you would see that sometimes you just probably endure based on certain, I don't want people to see this part of probably my marriage. As a result of that, I decided to look away that side and bold the good one. And I can tell you, in African tradition, if they say they are giving you advice, marital piece of advice, be it in church or at home settings, one of the things they will tell you is also to close your eyes at the bad things and look at the good things, because in life, there's nothing that doesn't have both sides. So close your eyes, as in be consciously blind to that part, even if that part is affecting you or could affect you. So you have to idealize, and that is what has happened in many affinity or any association or relationship people have. They don't, it's not necessarily because sometimes it has happened that it is because people just choose to look away. That is why some relationship, if everybody is asking questions about those things that bother them, asking questions, perhaps some things will be defined. Not what we have not chosen to know is that it does not necessarily lead to breakup. It does not necessarily lead to divorce. However, it gives room for critical deliberation, for conscious talk and redefinition of state of things, with the view to understanding each other or one another even much better than just looking away, as they would say, and say, close your eyes. I've heard people say that in a lot and say, close your eyes, do as if you didn't see. There are many other things you can be looking at. And the one you have been asked to not look at, perhaps, is even the one that is biting you the most and that could have a long-lasting effect on you. I'm surprised when you hear people say the reason they don't want to do this is because the man or the woman does not support their career. It did not start the day you became a manager. It did not start the day you started leading the country or whatever it is. The person will have been giving different signs that shows that it's not probably supportive of your career, or it's a person that probably wants a full-time housewife, and you decided to look away only for that question to come up when at the critical point of a moment in life where you have to decide and you are asked, somebody now asks you point blank to choose between your career or your family or your home, just because of what you have looked away. Anyway, why we are going to all have our say on what you have learned from the book, these are the things I want us, I put forward as a way forward that we may not be willfully blind. Number one is to acknowledge the fact that everyone has a bias. Mine might be different from your own. The reality in this case is not to pretend that I don't have any bias. No, we do. However, in every decision we want to make, we should first identify our biases in that respect and put it also on the table beside the decision we want to make. This is my bias. However, I am going to ensure that I look from this book beyond the normal English. I learned that there's a lot of difference between seeing and looking. When you look you see with intent. So we look and ensure that we adjust for our bias in order to achieve a balance. If I go to the instance of recruitment that was cited the other time, when I have known that some people, I have bias for a person's appearance, and I know that I put it in mind, and somebody has come for an interview, I will know that this is my bias. As the person is coming, not probably well dressed or dressed enough to my taste, I will know that I've identified that it is my bias, not that the person has probably done anything to jeopardize the competency required. So then we should ensure balance at all times, not that our biases will override our life decisions. Then don't be a pleaser, at least not every time. Many are times that we do things we do, not because we are convinced, not because it is the right thing to do, but just primarily so that we can please. For instance, there was an instance that was cited in this book of a particular professional, a boss, that took an appointment, and she inherited an attitude where people just stay late at work to please the boss. I'm sure many of us will have had that experience. I can't leave because our guys are around. I don't have any more useful thing to do in the office. As a matter of fact, I'll be more productive going home at that particular time. But because our guy is still very much in the office, and I have decided I don't want our guy to have that impression of whatever the impression could be, is disrespectful, is not committed, they cannot sacrifice, they cannot even. So everybody was doing that in that woman's place of work. They would close so late, just so that they may. And this person now, because she wants to change that, it's not even her own. She's not convinced that because you are not, you close at the time you're supposed to close without doing 1 minute extra, that you are. So she now make it clear that it is only incompetence and carelessness that will make a person stay an extra hour before he can be relevant or do what it's supposed to do. Like this job that you are meant to do, it is only carelessness and incompetence. It now attributed carelessness and incompetence to people stay beyond the normal day at work. Incompetence, and also make it look like, okay, you can't please me by staying and a minute later than the normal time. As a matter of fact, all the work you are supposed to do has been scheduled within the normal work frame. So doing more than that is not something to impress me. So that's just a situation of a person that doesn't want to be pleased, even though it's an entrenched culture in that organization. How many of us today do that just to please? Many things that one would just do just because you want to be a good boy, a good girl, and perhaps be favored in one way or the other. And it's a form of being willfully blind. You are willfully blind to the consequences of perhaps leaving office late, not for any meaningful reason than to impress, than to please. And you are willfully blind to the benefit of getting home early and perhaps taking a rest. It was even said that in the book that nobody achieves cognitive improvement by stressing himself out or staying up late at night or taking extra work to do. No, that's the only way, according to the book, that a person can even have cognitive improvement is through aerobics. Go to the gym and go and do exercise, not by staying late at night and bragging and boasting that you've not had more than 2 hours sleep in the last 5 years. As a matter of fact, in the book, it was said that if you see somebody, it was said in that book that, it was said in the book that if you see someone boasting, he said if you see someone boasting of how he stays late at night, how he doesn't have more than 1 hour sleep, how he does this and that, he said you should remember to pass your condolence to the person. More or less like, you don't do it just because everybody is doing it. You don't do it to please. Many of the decisions we are making, we probably have taken a different decision if we remove that tendency to want to please out of it. Again, find a third opinion when making a decision. Nobody's an island. Third opinion in this case is born out of a fundamental fact that everybody has an agenda. Everybody that you are working with in our place of work has his own agenda. So, and their opinions and positions sometimes is to either put their agenda to either impress you or to work their own agenda. So you cannot necessarily dissociate, remove biases, and perhaps ill counsel from evil opinions you are offered. And in this case, the people we are working with, when they make an opinion, or people in our immediate network, when they make an opinion, that is the first opinion. And we are saying find a third opinion. So the second opinion is a technical opinion, an expertise opinion. I'll give us an instance of a business person that is thinking of investments. And people have come with different proposals. And the first opinion is the person that has brought the proposal with all the pros and cons and how much profit margin and the likes. Now, the second opinion is to now find a competent investment banker or any other professional that is well grounded in the subject for counsel. That's the second opinion. And now that person too has an agenda, and the agenda is to perhaps you are going to invest, you are going to access loans from their bank or something. Now, the third opinion is a person that doesn't have any agenda and that doesn't stand anything, benefit or otherwise, in that particular concept. So the person is free of whatever it is. So we stand a lot to gain by having a third opinion. This third opinion sometimes might be linked to our role model, our mentor, our coach, and an external person to look at some decisions we want to make or we just make, so that we can subject it to scrutiny and all the possible areas of willful blindness can be pointed out so that we don't err. Another thing is that there's a combined antidote to willful blindness, and that is unvarnished truth and unfettered exploration. The two of them have to go together, as unfettered exploration without truth is just an exercise in futility. And unvarnished truth without unfettered exploration is just merely holding to your conviction. So the two will go together. When we see something, we should be willing to try. And when we are trying, we should stay on the side of caution. More or less, like, we should take everything as it could be positive, not that it could be positive, it could be negative. Not that we just make up our mind that because it is this, it must be negative. We don't even go after it any bit. We don't take any risk about it or the likes. Then, I've mentioned about being a pleaser. Celebrate and reward the dissenters. When we see people that basis on a principle and sound reasoning, even if we are not convinced, even if we do not agree, especially when it eventually turns out that their way is actually the way, they should be celebrated. It is a way of entrenching that people deliberately become less blind. And somebody said in the book, and said, we have seen emoluments for fallen heroes at wars, Nobel laureates for people and this and that, that who celebrates the dissenters and what are their reward? We have criticized, we have practically crucified dissenters long enough that we do not even think that they should be celebrated nor rewarded. So myself, a decision I've made is the fact that if somebody comes with a different perspective from myself, I'm going to, and eventually the person made a lot more sense than I do. Whatever, no matter how small, from the bottom of my heart, I'm going to make the person, I will encourage the person to say, oh, you are a lot more reasonable than I was in this instance, or than all of us. And as a matter of fact, such people should be considered for perhaps responsibilities in organizations. Because imagine facts, attending to the fact that in these particular uncertain times, it is people that dissent, that look at things from a different perspective, that do things differently. They are the people that probably have the solution, the 21st century solutions to the 21st century challenges. So again, the question that we should always ask to avoid being in this situation of willful blindness is, what could I know, or what should I know but that I do not know? See, I had an experience in my, at a point that I thought ignorance was a bliss. Ignorance was a bliss. There's a lot of joy and comfort you get from being unaware. And I thought it was reasonable that when people say, why did you say that? That I would just say, because I was not aware, because I do not know. I felt it was a comfortable, I thought it was a comfortable thing. It was a good thing, reasonable thing to say. When somebody say, why did you make this decision? Or why did you not speak up on this? And I say, I do not know. Were there opportunities for you to know? Were there people you could have talked to and say, please, I'm new in this system. If somebody is moved from this place to this place, what is he supposed to do? What is he supposed to know? Can I talk to a senior colleague? Can I talk to, but there was just this bliss in not knowing. I do not know. I was coming from a different place. Where I'm coming from, they don't do this. So I don't know they do it here. So, and it is not tenable. As a matter of fact, it can end somebody. You can even, I was lucky, perhaps in my case, if it had to be in court of law, it will not, lack of knowledge or conscious ignorance will not absolve a person from a deterrent, from a deserving punishment for that offense or crime. And that is the reason why I just felt Margaret Heffernan has done us a lot of good by pointing our mind to these aspects that we probably do not consider. So we should ask ourselves at all times, this decision I'm making or I've made, what am I missing out? And what can I do so that I will have been deliberately conscious of what I do? Thank you very much.
I think this has been so great, and I've learned a lot. I mean, you've given a lot of compliments to the writer of this, the author of this book, but I must also commend you for doing a great job in sharing your learnings from this wonderful book. And like I said earlier, I think this is a book you should read more than once, because it says a lot about who we are as human beings, and also challenges what we are used to, right? What we've grown up to know. And a lot of these things we feel they are the way things should be done. But this book challenges that, and I think it's very good at. I think it's something I would always recommend, and I think I would also recommend this to my colleagues at work as well. So it's time.
I think
Mr.
we're losing the
Adesanjo
audio.
has said a lot, right? Oh, sorry. Hello?
You're back now. It went off for a bit.
Oh, okay. Sorry for that. My internet is a bit unstable tonight. So, like I said, it's time for questions and contributions. And although Mr. Sanjay has said a lot, I think I'm very sure some of us have more to add to what he has shared tonight. And if you have any questions whatsoever, I mean, you can bring it forward, and we'll definitely have answers for your questions. So the floor is open to everyone now.
Okay. Hello. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Dimeji.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Dimeji. Thank you. It's nice to be here. Although I've not read this book, but I've learned a lot this evening from the discussion that we have had so far, and I'm really grateful that I did. My contribution is just in the aspect towards the end, where is towards the end of the review, where he talked about way forward for us to avoid willful blindness. And I want to contribute by saying that if we can, either if it's for us directly or for people we are giving advice to, if we can objectively and dispassionately consider the consequences of our actions, I think it will help a lot for people to avoid falling into the trap of willful blindness. And I want to share an experience that I have with one of my friends. While we were in school, in the university, I think we were in our final year or so, and there was this lady he was dating, and if they say someone is perfect for someone, you can just say these guys are perfect. They were like a couple from heaven, as in it was a match. You know, the girl, they were from the same, they had the same religion, they came from the same states, you know. The girl had come to visit in his at home. The boy's parents loved her immediate, as in at first sight. Both the dad and the mom, and this, my friend, is somebody that his parents are quite tough, and you know they are disciplinarian. If you understand what I mean. But when they met this girl, they loved her. Everybody accepted her. You know, so they were dating, and then you know it got a difficult question came up, and we asked this friend. It's looking like you guys are getting serious. So how far have you done your genotype? Do you know her genotype? And that was something that was really a big issue. But then I'm talking about 1999.
Yeah, please. I need this to hear this thing very well.
It was a big issue then. And so, you know, at the end of the day, he knew his own genotype. It was AS, but he didn't know the girl's genotype. And so, you know, he had to summon courage and asked her. And eventually he found out that she was AS too. You know, now is the time for them to now make the decision, you know. But, you know, they were so much, you know, in love, if you can call it that. Yes, they were in love. They matched in everything. As in, everything was smooth. But that was the only thing. So, but, you know, the truth is, this guy had to consider, you know, we talked, you know, and friends, we told him, guy, forget to, hey, love is blind, love is blind. By the time you guys start having children, and your children, you know, if you are unlucky and you have your children as SS, imagine how miserable life will be. This love that you guys are professing for each other now, will this still be able to hold ground as at then? So, you know, and then we were able to, you know, give examples of people around, you know, that we knew, who even some of that were our friends that we had lost because they were SS, or some families that were going through, you know, a lot of difficult situation because they had children that were SS. You know, so we say, so this is something for those that are in it already. Well, we pray for them and then we support them as much as we can to cope and to, you know, manage. But you that you are not in it and you want to, you know, like, you know that this is most likely what will happen. There's a high probability that it will happen. But, you know, so for you, but so we were able to bring out all those points, and, you know, people like our brother said the other time, second opinion, third opinion, you know, all those things count. And at the end of the day, you know, the both of them, and I think maybe the lady too on her own part too, she had good advice and all that. So they had to maturely sit together and agree to go their separate ways, even though it was not an easy decision. It was a very difficult one. But no, I can tell you today that my friend is happily married with 3 kids. The lady is happily married with 2 kids, and they still get in touch once in a while. Everybody is good. So the guy
I'm happy to.
Someone that is AA, and the lady too married, you know, the appropriate person, and they have moved on. But imagine if they had, you know, the willful blindness, because everything, all these other things are, you know, in line, and then they went ahead and got married. I wonder what would have happened by now. But, you know, because they were able to consider the consequences of what if they allow this willful blindness to dictate their actions. These are the consequences. When they knew it, they had to, you know, take a step back. So I think it's important for us to consider consequences. Thank you very much.
And really, thank you also for sharing. Over to you, Shibu.
All right, all right. Thank you for that insight. And I think it's a very, very important experience, considering the consequence of having a child with sickle cell and anemia. It's just like, I mean, these books really speaks to us, and I think there are a lot of things that we can relate to. These are like real life experiences, and it's important that we always consider consequences. It's really hard. I know how difficult it is. Where the author said it's even the illusion that makes a marriage work. I mean, think about it. It's the illusion that makes the marriage work. So, do we have more contributions or any more questions?
Okay, while people are still thinking on whether to ask question or even put in more contributions, so like I see that we've kept the chat box pretty busy also today with thoughts and comments. So there's this example in the book that caught my attention. At seeing someone share a video of that not so long ago. So when I now found that portion, the portion in the book, I was like, oh, did this come from this book, or also maybe the author also borrowed it? And that is about the gorilla in the room. Did anybody notice that part? It's an experiment done, conducted by a doctor called Dr. Daniel Simmons at Harvard. And it showed that when researchers asked subjects, maybe people are in a room now, and they were asked to count the number of times a basketball was passed among the players, and then to count how many times each of the player missed the pass. So because they are busy trying to take note of the count, they missed the part where someone dressed in a gorilla suit passed in between. So after that number of minutes, they were asked, who noticed that someone wearing a gorilla suit passed just while the basketball passes were going on? Interestingly, nobody did. They now had to play a video because it was recorded, play a video, and somewhere in between, there was someone dressed in a gorilla suit, and the person walked across the court. So what does this mean to us? It says that humans can process only a limited amount of information at a time. So you see how willful blindness sometimes may even be unwillful, unwillful blindness. See how it comes into play. It is such that we see what we want to see, what we plan to see. I was giving an example to a colleague at work. I said there was a particular point where my husband was speaking about a certain kind of car. He's a car freak. So, so we have different different times that, you talk about Benz today, talk about, the other cars tomorrow. And the point where he brought my attention to notice a particular car, a brand of car, and I started noticing that in my area where I stay, that quite a number of people have have that car. The truth is, I've not noticed before. It was because my attention was drawn to that particular brand of car. So I started noticing that brand of car. And that's one thing about, I think I saw something on cognitive dissonance, which Sojo clearly talked about. But in relation to this, the gorilla in the room, one thing is that multitasking is a fallacy, so to say. So it's a fallacy. No one does a good job on any one task. You would not do a fantastic job. You would not do one thing well if one is multitasking. So focus is important, so that you don't miss out key information that are important to decisions you have to make on any task. So, and it also explains the danger of, when you're driving and texting, or you're driving and you're talking on the phone. So the mental resources are limited. So we have to also bear that in mind. So that's just a bit of thought from my end. Anybody in the room? Then we will be wrapping up soon. Over to you, Shegun.
All right, thank you very much. I think I have a question.
Okay.
So the author talked a lot about how important diversity is, and also the benefits of a diverse team. But talking about recruitment now, what are the things, like how do we determine things that we can, things that we can allow to be diverse within the team, and things that have to be the same? For example, say the non-negotiables and the negotiables. So how do we draw a line so that if a particular person does not meet this requirement, then they are not going to be hired? And if perhaps they exhibit attributes totally different from some particular set of requirements, they'll be hired. So how do we draw the line? How do you determine that?
Okay, I'll leave that to our facilitator, then I'll share my thoughts. Sanjo, our reviewer for today.
Well, I'll wait for your input. Yes. Okay. Please to add before I answer the question, please. That concept of the gorilla story. Sincerely, after reading this book, one of the things that I've probably changed in my view or my worldview is imagine myself stay on a panel, and a would-be employee said, "I can multitask." In fact, it cannot go. It's not a go for me.
Not anymore.
Not, because
red flag.
If you review CVs, you know that I can multitask. I can work without little or no supervision. Is almost constant.
That pressure.
Because people are looking for people that can multitask and the likes. And the fact is that what we should have is planned task, not particularly multitasking. Eating, where you are eating and you are reading. You are eating your lunch and you are reading. You are many things, and the danger of them. We don't also consider
with you. He loves to read while eating.
The consequence of sending a text or reading a chat, even from a prophet, if an accident should just happen. Imagine the beautiful dreams we all have. Our millennial goal, we as we enter another decade now, we have had a 10-year plan, we have 5-year plans. Imagine that of the next person you are going to have an accident with that will be involved. If we look at the consequence, sincerely speaking, no matter whose ox will be God, I will not be tempted to be distracted while driving or doing anything of sorry, especially after reading this book, because it is because of the consequence. Now, to the question, one of the things in the way forward is the fact that, one, we should identify our biases. And identifying it implies that we do not allow it, we do not mix it up with a competency or set of, or competency skill set, or skill set, competency or skill set required of a job when we are recruiting. I'll give an instance. For instance, I was in College of Medicine as a student. We have a dress code. And even when I left school, sometimes I would just put on tie and people would be like, hello. And I had another friend who read physics and is an engineer. He has, even in his, to his honor, he has invented a number of things. But he can just put on jeans and t-shirt, wear slippers and go. And this person is a resource. As in, I would recommend him anywhere ICT and innovation and inventions are concerned. So when this person has not come to be interviewed for a receptionist where his appearance is the reason to judge him, and what I need is a person that probably is that make a good teamwork, that can design, that can invent, that can innovate. I will streamline my biases to the biases that are work related and competency driven, not my personal or my personality taking over the process of recruitment. Or as we see these days, where people are more inclined to just employ a person that attends the same church, that share the same view from their state of origin. Somebody, I had a cousin that had to leave a bank work as a junior manager in a bank. He trained in UK and he came to Nigeria on the insistence of his dad to come and work. And because he does not believe that God exists, he's a free thinker or whatever he is, he does not believe that God exists, and the boss is a religious person. And just because of the friction that happens about the debate on whether God exists or not, just because he does not agree with him on the basis of God exists or doesn't exist, he has to stop existing the organization because he does not believe that. So, my answer is we should limit our overriding criteria for recruitment to things that are germane to the actual job, and not let our personal preferences be the determinant factor. Thank you.
Very true, very true. All right.
Okay, maybe just a bit of thoughts on that.
Okay.
So, like somewhere in the book says that individuals and singly and in groups, they are equally susceptible to willful blindness. So what makes organization different is the scale of damage they can cause. So that what it means is that in every organization, there is always some bit of bias, just like Sojo has described, that would have happened somewhere along the line. So it is how much, if there are no checks, enough checks and balances or control in place. So you just end up having a group of people in an organization who only think in a particular way. So because people naturally, they gravitate towards people who make them feel comfortable, or people who probably do not have a different viewpoint as themselves. You know, you ask a person a question in an interview, and you already want to hear something. There's a way you want the answers to come, and if it doesn't come that way, you think it's wrong. You know, if someone brings a different perspective, and then you think just because it didn't sound like what you want to hear. And it happens, apart from hiring people, even in decision makings, even in conversation within workplace, there will be one person will just feel like, okay, look like nobody's listening to me. And that's one person, you know, just like Sojo said, that needs to be rewarded for at least thinking differently. Because one thing that can bring harm to any organization is, you know, this thing called groupthink. When you have a lot of people all thinking the same way as either the boss or as either maybe the most vocal person in a group. So, and one thing that we've also noticed is that despite decades of the corporate diversity programs and equality legislation, institutional sameness still prevails. So, and there's an example taken from America, and research, you know, that we also see that people, even when they settle in communities, they even think about, you know, like-mindedness. You know, like, oh, people that will share the same interests, you know, that will believe in is it politics, is it values, is it taste? Even in a socially diverse community, country like America, such things still inform how people make decisions on key life matters. So that's just my bit on that. It is not right. So people need to be, and that's why I said this morning, I said on my LinkedIn profile that this is a book every leader should read. It's okay to know that there's something called willful blindness, so that when you need to take decision, you ask yourself, what is it that I need to know? Just like Sojo wrapped up his presentation, and I'm going to quote directly from there. He said, what could I know What should I know that I don't know? What am I missing? So, and that's that from me. I think it's okay if we wrap up now. Share over to you.
Yeah.
And I need some people to even speak on this call. Ogochukwu, Emanuela has spoken earlier, but it's okay. Yesterday, this is another nutritionist. So it's a nutritionist, a nutritionist who facilitated. So Mr. Falabi, then who else hasn't spoken today? Etim, Efionwan Etim, Rufai Sheung Peter. I've not heard from you. Afolabi Daniel. So who is going to speak? Thanks for speaking earlier on, Fisayo.
Okay, can I say
And she
something?
too has spoken too. Thanks for speaking earlier. So who wants to speak now?
Can I say something? Chai wants
Oh,
to say
please
something.
go ahead, Chai, please.
Okay, so
Chai.
it's just a confirmation to the point you raised. So to answer Shegu's question on how to manage recruitment. So after reading the book, one of the answers I had to give to myself is, I just need to be humble to know that I don't know all the way to solve a problem. So
Absolutely.
so I just need to open my mind to accept the fact that there are not just one way to solve a problem. My way is not the only way. So that, I think, would help to, bring your consciousness to the fact that there are other ways, and there are diverse people or diverse methods. I just thought I should just add
Yes.
that.
And it's valid. Thanks for sharing.
Very valid. Very valid. I mean, for me, a personal experience. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry I came in a bit late, but I was still able to pick a whole lot of things from tonight's review, and I must say kudos to Adesanjo. You've really done justice, and we're able to relate the learnings from this book as well to our life experiences as individuals. So, even starting from when we wake up in the morning, we are being confronted with decisions, making decisions on what to put on. As ephemeral as they might seem, really they could as well have consequences on how our day is going to turn out, and let alone talking about some other greater measures of decisions that we make as individuals. Really, our sentiments, individual sentiments would definitely want to play out, but we should not be the one that would be able to really decipher this decision I want to take on this issue. What are the consequences that could eventually come out of it? And like you said, when I joined, you made mention of the fact that we might want to make some decisions, possibly to gratify our own sentiments, of probably being the need for the decision we really need to make at that point in time. But definitely there will still be some other consequences. So it is now left to us as individuals to really balance it up and see which one would pay us in the long run. Is it to gratify ourselves for the present and have to suffer it in the probably in the future? So then we know we have to probably go through the rigors of today then for us to enjoy later in life. So for instance, as individuals, we know it might be difficult for us putting from further qualifications so that we can be relevant in the future. It might not be easy at the present, but for the for what we tend to gain in the future, then we have to go through the pains of today. So it's actually a book that even for I haven't finished it. I only read some few pages because I've been busy lately. But based on how it has really been explained today, I will still find time to go and read it from valley to valley, so to speak. So a good one this evening, and kudos to everyone who has actually weighed in their own perspectives as well.
Absolutely. And from when you spoke now, something also came to mind also from the book. That there's a part that says a lot of times we tend to admit information that makes us feel good. You know, when people say, "Oh, you look dashing" and all of that, you know, it's easy to admit
Scam.
such, yeah. And then we'll conveniently filter out whatever unsettles us. You know, whatever unsettles our fragile emotion or ego, you know, or maybe our beliefs, you know, and that's one thing that happens when. Okay, I was having a conversation. Now, this is personal. It was a family conversation. And I mentioned something to an elder in the family. I won't mention who it is. But and the person said, don't let them hear. They must not hear. They should protect that person, you know, so that people will not hear. Actually, it's a case of COVID. We had in a secondary school. So I mentioned it on a call. And the person said, they should not disclose the secondary school. I was like, why? And then the elder said, no, the stigmatization. And do you know what I said to the elder? I said, Ma, no. I said, this is one of the things that have caused so much harm in the whole world. People covering up evil just to avoid either one person or two person being stigmatized. And then, you know, imagine a case of rape now. One person raped someone, instead of, you know, they protect, you know, they make it hush, and that person go ahead to do more evil to other children, whether girl or boy or whichever way, just because there's this cultural mindset of, you know, turn a blind eye to it. They would even blame the person. What did you even go and do in that place? So like the secondary school situation, I now gave an example. I said, what if somebody in my neighborhood child, or maybe several people whom my children plays with, is in that secondary school? How are we able, what if the family do not want to isolate the child and just stop the child from going to school, and maybe my own children come back from school and they want to play with those people also? I said, that is what silence or willful blindness in some regard, you know, as the ills it has contributed to the society. So that's just to drop in on what Daniel had said. Thank you, Daniel. Over to you, Shegun. I think it's time we wrapped up. If there are no further comments or thoughts.
Okay. Does anyone else have any?
To say again that Nigeria is also willfully blind as a country.
Yeah, if I was just thinking,
50 years after a civil war, you say let's discuss the civil war, and you hear no, let's bring out the some.
Exactly. Nobody wants to. Exactly. It's quite sad.
It's sad. It's sad. It's sad.
So are we also being willfully blind by not taking action?
We just move with, you know, we roll. Everybody moves with the tide. Quite sad.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's caused willful blindness is the fear. You know, fear. One of the fear of what will happen. I think looking at what happened, the whole NSAS protests, where it started and everybody had, at some point, people's hope was revived. And then the way the government just, you know, turned the whole thing around. And personally, I must say that before I come out for any protest now, I will think twice because of how everything turned out. It just means that whether I like it or not, the price to pay is high for especially in situation we are in Nigeria. So it's just for us to look at the consequences of our actions and then see, and then we'll just follow through with it. I must say it's quite sad, but the thing is we can't continue to turn blind eyes to the situation of things. Else things will just keep getting bad. Things were a lot better relatively better like 10 years ago. And you know, people kept saying that it will get better, it will get better. 10 years after, nothing has changed. And if we do nothing, you know, nothing will eventually change. But then again, the question is, are we ready to pay the price? So that's what I have to say concerning.
Thank you very much.
Shegun,
That's very sorry,
sorry,
ma.
this is
Okay,
Fisayo.
okay, please
Hi. So,
continue.
one more thing I also wanted to touch on. There is a particular chapter of the book which talks about how distance can contribute to us being willfully blind, and physical distance, distance in level, distance in our finances. And we see that in organizations today where people are willfully blind and hide under the umbrella of delegation. So they say, oh, I've delegated it to someone, so I'm out of the picture. And when something goes wrong, you start hearing, oh, I'm not aware. I actually delegated to this person. So we being at the top or climbing up the ladder doesn't make it okay for us to be blind. Doesn't make it okay for us not to be part of something that is happening. And you know, a lot in the book there was a lot of mention about one oil and gas company where the CEO, yes, thought it was okay for him not to be aware of things that were happening in his organization. And when things fell apart, it was like, oh, nobody told me about it. If they had told me, I would have done something. And you see that today with people, the MDs of organizations, the presidents, the governors, saying nobody reported this to them. So it's very important for us as we grow and, you know, get higher at our place of work to always remember to be present and not just take ourselves out of the picture.
Thank you. Very true.
Very true. Thank you very much for that. I think it's time to wrap up, right? Yes or no? I mean, it's been an interesting.
So there's so much layer to the book. If we keep talking,
There's a lot. I think it takes more than one review session to be able to really dissect it. It's really loaded. It's really loaded.
So much.
Yeah. So thank you to the facilitator for today's session review. Thanks to so much. Now I think I'm going to read all the chapters. I'm going to recommend this. I already recommended it to my wife, by the way, because it's I think I'll just wrap up.
Am I the only one who is struggling to hear Shegun?
Yeah, same here. I guess
No.
I could barely hear him as well.
Okay.
Hello, I can't hear the moderator again.
So let's wrap up. The next review to be the final review for the year would happen so that's looking like on the 11th or 12th of December, and it's going to be managed. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, yes, I heard that now. Okay, now I know you can hear me. So it's going to be on the 11th. I'm thinking that Friday or Saturday of December, 11th or 12th of December. So, but we'll get back to you on the details. But we know we'll handle it. So, Alaja is here. Alaja Adija is my heel. So she's going to be the moderator while Dominic will facilitate. So we share the details of the group. If you're here and you would like to be part of the WhatsApp group, where we also, encourage ourselves to read the text. So the book we'll be reviewing in December is already on the group platform. So we would also be shared to any new member so we can start looking at the book, start binge reading. binge reading it, at your, leisure. I hear books are also good. They are good for taking down stress. So please do ensure that you take on your reading habit, and we're here to support you. So we are a support system, and that's why we call ourselves that kind of a tribe where we support ourselves and to read and study and take learnings that when you get back to your workplace, your business place on Monday, you can easily start applying. We don't just read for the sake of reading. We read it so that we can bring it to life. And on this round today, I say thank you to everyone for being part of this book review. Thanks to our lead facilitator, Adesanjo Oyejide. Thank you so much for dissecting, for the all real life examples that you have brought to bear. Thanks also to our moderator, the software engineer himself. So thank you for moderating today's conversation. And I like the engagement, the interaction. Thanks for bringing it to life. To all our coordinators in-house, Ella, to Olaolu, Harriet in absentia, and every other person on the group, please do have a fantastic rest of the weekend. And see you soon. Bye-bye.
Yeah, goodbye. Good night.
Yeah. Good night.
Bye. Good night.
Bye, everyone.